Thanks for selecting this video. My name is Don Wertzman. I recently published two books. One is The Daughters of Ishtar, a thriller, and the other is The Gyroverse, a book on original physics theory. But now I want to speak on another very misunderstood subject. You have undoubtedly heard that if you raise taxes, the government would not collect more money, but in fact might actually collect less money. Sounds like an oxymoron. How could the government raise taxes and collect less money? That idea is very unintuitive and meets with wide skepticism, especially from those who want your taxes raised. Surfing the internet, I have found the explanation of that notion lacking, and so I decided to take a shot at it. This idea has most recently been introduced by Arthur Laffer and explained using what is now called the Laffer curve. However, the idea dates back at least 700 years and can best be explained with two curves. Here they are. The top one is the Laffer curve, and this is the other curve. On top of your screen is the image of the traditional Laffer curve. Unfortunately, the name itself brings on some snickering. I'm the handsome guy in the lower right. The horizontal axis is labeled income tax rate. The vertical axis is income tax revenue. The curve starts at the origin, where both the tax rate and the tax revenue are zero. In other words, if the tax is zero, there's no revenue. As expected, as the tax rate increases, the tax revenue increases, and the curve rises. But when the tax rate approaches 100%, the revenue approaches zero again. Because who would work if they could not keep any of their earnings? Obviously, there is a point where the revenue must peak. Some studies suggest that the peak occurs at 70% tax rate. Other studies suggest that it occurs at 30% tax rate. However, the 50% point is probably closer to the truth. So if the tax rate were less than 50%, revenue would increase as tax rates increase. On the other hand, revenues would actually decrease if the marginal tax rate increased beyond 50%. Therefore, the important question is, what is the current effective tax rate? The marginal tax rate is the most significant because when taxes go up or down, it determines the tax savings or loss. The wage earners whose marginal tax rate is from 25% to 35% contribute about 80% of all the tax revenue. When you add FICA, Social Security, and state income tax, 40% shown with the red line is a conservative estimate for the effective tax rate. Since this is below the 50%, one might be tempted to surmise that we haven't yet reached the tax rate that will lower income tax receipts. Most analysis seem to stop here. However, while the Laffer curve is good qualitatively for explaining the concept, it's not too good for making calculations. Look at its derivative below the Laffer curve. Although it looks very different, it has the very same information as the Laffer curve above. In fact, each can be derived from the other. It determines how much tax revenue the government gets for each dollar increase in taxes. It's a straight line that runs down and to the right, from plus $1 to minus $1. If the current tax rate were very low, raising the taxes $1 would bring in approximately $1 of revenue. But as the current tax rate increases, a dollar increase in taxes brings in progressively less revenue. At a 50% tax rate, an increase in taxes brings in no money at all. At a higher tax rate, it actually reduces total revenue, until raising taxes a dollar actually reduces the total taxes by $1. Continuing to follow the red line, which portrays the current situation, for the 40% effective tax rate, an increase in taxes of $1 would bring in only 20 cents. All the other things being equal, if you're looking to increase revenue by $100 billion, taxes have to be increased 5 times that amount. This is not just theory. The process is at work today. If you Google using words like tax avoidance, many of the previously spawned tax-reducing strategies will surface. These tax havens include such phrases as tax-deferred, tax avoidance gifts, municipal bonds, offshore, and shelters. While these strategies are significant, most of the lost revenue comes from a depressed economy that results. The greater the taxes, the harder taxpayers work to shield their earnings. In fact, when you tax the rich, it's even less productive because they can better afford the high price lawyers and accountants who develop these tax avoidance schemes. In addition, the higher the tax rate, the greater a taxpayer's motivation to test the limits. Because even among the very affluent, only 10% of the tax returns are audited. For the rest of us, the audit rate is just in the 1 to 2% range. It's not always easy to see the connection between higher taxes and stunted revenue, because there are other factors that affect the economy that mask it. And it takes time for people and corporations to modify their behavior and react accordingly. For example, if it suggests that a particular company build a factory offshore, it cannot be done overnight. We are at the point of little or no return for tax increases. Is it worth raising taxes where the revenue would only be 20 cents on the dollar and hurt the economy to boot? Clearly not. Just like any business, we need to control our spending and expect more self-reliance from our citizens. Thanks for listening. Don Wurzman signing off.